Okay, so this is the story of my brother's friend. Don't know his name, so let's name him Tony, and now I am gonna tell this story from Tony Poff. The story. My name is Tony. I am from India here. We have a very high craze of cricket. Cricket is the most loved sport in India. So there is a league named IPL, and it happened every and millions of people watch, sometime even 1 billion. Guys, I don't know the actual year. It was before COVID. The year was like 2016 or 17, let's say 2017. So in the summer of 2017, my family decided that we should go to Kolkata city in India, where the stadium is, to watch a match stadium. And it was our first time. We never been to a stadium before. So there is what I call a long relation uncle. Long doesn't mean in time. Like we say I know a guy who know a guy and so on, yeah, like that. His name was IDK, let's say Alan. So Uncle Alan had been living in Kolkata for a long time, and he knows every place of Kolkata. So when we reached Kolkata, we went to his home. He welcomed us. His house was also big and good. We reached Kolkata Monday and the cricket match was on Wednesday, so we thought we should have a tour of Kolkata. On Monday, we all were tired of the trip, so all rest that day and decide to tour on Tuesday. On Tuesday, Uncle Alan didn't come with us. He just told us if we got any problem, so just give him a call. So we were like, okay. Kolkata was really a beautiful city for us, and we came home by 7 p.m. and we also didn't have to wake up early cause the match was next day at around 6 p.m. So we come home and Uncle Alan asked us did we like cricket or not. We said yes and have a dinner and enjoy, and we all go to sleep. Next day was the one I was excited for. We even left the home for hours before the match start. One thing, the total time of IPL matches is around 5 or 6 hours. So match started at around 6:45 p.m. and it was some of the best time of my life. The match was intense and good, and it worth every penny of the ticket price. It ended at 11:30 p.m. so we came out of stadium and now we were all tired except me. Don't know why I think BCZ the happiness of watching a match at stadium for first time. One more thing to add, only me, my mom, dad are at the stadium. Uncle Alan didn't go to stadium with us. When we came home at around 12 am, Uncle Alan was sleeping. We didn't thought to wake him up. We thought that it could disturb his sleep. We all go to sleep. At around 2:30 am, I wake up. I was thirsty, so I go to the kitchen and drink a glass of cold water, and then came to the bed. Then after some time I found that the light of hallway, which was off, start flickering. I just go there and switch off the bulb and came to bed. Then it again start flickering. I thought it must be BCZ of some wiring issue. I couldn't sleep due to the summer because it was so hot there, and also the AC was terrible. After like 20 minutes I saw Uncle Alan in the hallway. He was there near the bulb, but he wasn't doing anything, just staring at bulb. He was just standing there. I also feel weird why he is just standing there, so I said, Uncle Alan. He didn't answer. After few seconds, he looked at me from the hallway, and after few seconds just went to his room. I feel weird about it. Then I thought he must be repairing that bulb. BCZ it was in front of his room and must be disturbing him, so I also decide to sleep. Next day, I wake up at around 9 am. Uncle Alan was not in the house. then found a note in his room. On there, it was written that due to some important office work, he left the home early, and he also drove us to the railway station, and there was written to give the home key to the neighbors. So we thought that it must be some urgent work, so we were like, okay. The train was at 1 p.m. So we reached the station at around 12:30 p.m. and catch the train. After some time, my dad fell bored and started reading the paper, which he bought at the station. Then I saw that his face expression start changing. He get terrified after seeing a news. The news was Uncle Alan was found dead. The photo of body wasn't there, but his photo was there. We were confirmed that it was Uncle Alan. He also gave him a call. He didn't answer. Also, it was written on newspaper that on the reports it says that he must be killed on Wednesday evening, the day we were at the match. I still didn't. Who was that person I saw on that night? Was Uncle Alan or someone else or his ghost? After this incident, I never visit Kokata. Back to my character. So yeah, this is the story of my brother's friend whose first match experience was something else. When I first listened this story, I also thought it was fake, but yeah, it's real. It all started with the one question that has bothered me almost my entire existence. Why? Why did he do it? What made him? My grandmother forbade I go see him. My brother, Vincent, had his own version of events, and all I have is a vague memory of the day it happened. I was only 6 years old. What could push a man to such an act? What could push anyone to do that? The day I turned 18, I decided to go see my father and finally ask him. I didn't need anyone's permission anymore to go to Rikers Island. I woke up early that morning. Grandma was already making breakfast. Vincent was gone as usual. He's barely ever home. I don't like any of his friends. She wished me a happy birthday and made me an omelette. She felt something was off, but I played it cool. I knew if I told her, she'd lock the door on me. She was that serious about it. I hopped on a bus and got to Rikers within an hour. They had me waiting about another hour until I finally saw him. He looked completely different than I imagined. He came and sat down in front of me. I picked up the phone with only one question on my mind. He acted like I wasn't even his son. After what he did, I didn't feel like I was either. First thing he said to me was, "Why did you come? Maria sent you here." She was never too smart. At first, I'll be honest, I got up. I wanted nothing to do with him. But then something made me sit back down. "Why? Why did you do it?" I demanded. He replied with, "So, nothing I can say will make it better." I asked him again, "Why did you take my mother away from me?" This is when he simply handed me a small red leather diary. "You had a sister," he quipped to me, which I refused to hear at first. How could I believe a thing he said? "You still haven't answered my question," I said. "Her name was Celeste." He shot back, "She was your sister." After that, he got up and left. I was fuming. Not only did he not answer what I wanted to know most, he passed on the little red book. That would be the start of a very troubling time in my life. I came home that night after doing my evening shift at Taco Tuesdays and hopped on my Xbox. Grandma made some rice and chicken. Even Vincent came back and had some. His jacket was torn up. He had some blood on his pants. He was acting very strange. Grandma went to bed, and so did he. And eventually I got curious and opened the diary. The first thing I saw was her name, Celeste. Her entries started as any kids, drawings of dinosaurs, dolls, all kinds of animals, and a few diary entries, completing a science project and receiving an A+, finding a baby sparrow fallen from a nest, fun days in the park with mom and dad until something changes page after page. Celeste writes, "Someone is watching me, and he's in my room every night. He scares me. He says bad things to me." The pages that followed were even more unsettling. They were full pages, heavily inked sketches of a tall man in a wide-brimmed hat. I put the diary back into my backpack and went to bed that night thinking about it all. I couldn't fall asleep for hours, till I finally did, only it felt like just a moment before I was wide awake again. I couldn't move my arms, my legs, my entire body, frowning. The only thing I could wiggle were my eyes. Grandma was out cold in her bed. Vincent was passed out as well. I felt a chill enter the room, and with it, a darkness started creeping in from the hallway and into the bedroom, covering every inch of the room. All I wanted at this point was for this to end, but I had no control. I knew I wasn't sleeping. I knew this was no dream, and that's when I saw him. He was standing right there in the doorway. I could only see his silhouette. His eyes glimmered under his hat. He made his way closer to me, almost hovering. I could not move a single muscle. I was overtaken by fear, a dreading, engulfing sensation of doom. "All your fault." His cold, bitter voice echoed in the room. "You did this?" he proclaimed as he reached his finger out to me. Suddenly I could feel a loss of breath. I couldn't breathe no matter how hard I tried. I felt an insurmountable pressure on my chest. I felt this was the end of my life, until I looked to my right and saw her standing there beside me. Her eyes glimmered just like his. Her stance was crooked, her face that of a broken porcelain doll, cracked and tormented. I could not believe what I was seeing with my very own eyes. That's when she uttered, "Remember me now," in her childlike, distant voice. Then everything went black. I woke up the next morning standing in the kitchen. Grandma was worried for me. She told me I was sleepwalking and she didn't want to wake me. The first thing I did was go out and throw the diary into a dumpster. I went to work my shift, came back 8 hours later to find the diary right at my front door, waiting for me. When I was in high school, I had a really good friend who lived next door to a house that was always up for sale. People would move out in the middle of the night without a word, and it hadn't had the same owner for more than 6 months straight for a couple of years. One night we were really bored, and he suggested we go explore the house next door. Since it had Saturday empty for a while, we go around back and there's a dub door that he can crawl through, and he unlocks the door and lets me in. The house itself is really unremarkable. It looked like it was built in maybe the 1950s and was a craftsman-style house in an older, nicer part of town. My friend's house was similarly built. The kitchen had a really nice built-in breakfast table set against a picture window. The house's electricity was off, but you could see the street light through the window. My friend and I sit down on the floor across from this table and are just hanging out, talking. Why? Who knows? All of a sudden my friend screams, and in that instant my vision goes black. But it wasn't that, I just couldn't see. My body was engulfed in this sickly coldness from head to toe. I start screaming and I feel my friend's hand grabbing my and pulling me in some direction forcefully. My vision slowly comes back and I start to warm up when I realize that we're outside under the street light. It was December and should have been much warmer inside of that house. Finally, I look at my friend and he looks scared. I'm really confused and kind of panicked myself, and finally ask him what happened. He says that as I was talking, a black thing, this figure that was all black and only had the vague shape of a girl, crawled out from under the table and Saturday on top of me. Apparently I started groping around with my eyes wide open, like I couldn't see, and he was so freaked out he pulled me out of the house. We're still friends and we bring it up every now and then, but the story itself never changes and it still sends chills down my spine. To this day, I've never felt such blackness or coldness in my life. It was palpable, almost sticky, for a couple of days afterward. I couldn't shake this unsettling feeling, and I could never walk past that house again. But I'm scared to get out of bed now. Hardly anyone knows it, but Windfall, Indiana exists. It exists in such a way that when you're there, you feel like you're in a completely separate world. No shops, no restaurants, no anything, just a gas station, a bar, a post office, and some dirt roads. It has an energy to it, like you can feel a thickness in the air that offsets your intuition. It makes a human being's natural senses spike, like an animal who knows a predator is nearby. At least, that's how I personally feel about it. The entire place is off-putting. The people aren't much better either. I was only 13 when we moved there. My older sister was 16 and my younger one was 12. Both of them did considerably better than I did socially at school, and I was often left by myself at our new home. Mom was working quite a bit and often stayed after hours. She said it was because we needed the money, and I'm positive we did, but I think it was more so to keep her mind off the divorce. The new house was small, a 3-bed 1-bath with a dining room and a living room. We had a fenced-in backyard and a muddy lawn with an old tree sagging over it. It was the dead of winter, and as a 13-year-old girl, going through her first of many depressive episodes to come, I submerged myself into the internet. I came home every day to an empty house, made myself a snack, and planted myself on the couch to get lost in a YouTube rabbit hole until my eyes hurt. We'd only lived in the house for a couple weeks, but I was beginning to adjust to a new life. Sure, I didn't like Windfall, but I wasn't afraid of our house. School was miserable, but I cherished my time to myself. I felt as if I was getting a small taste of the adult life 13-year-old me was so eager to have. I wasn't scared to be alone until I caught sight of him. Sometimes in my YouTube crusade, I'd get distracted by the TV and my laptop screen would fall asleep. I'd look down and jiggle my mouse and get back to it. But this time, there was a small shape standing behind me in the doorway of my mom's bedroom. Just a short apparition with noticeably spiked hair. It didn't move, but the hair on the back of my neck stood up straight, and my skin began to break out in goosebumps. As quick as he appeared, he was gone. I hadn't turned to face him, but I knew in my heart it had to be a little boy. I wasn't afraid of him. The house was old and I felt that maybe he was just curious. I didn't get the feeling that he was bad or that maybe I should fear him. He'd just surprised me was all. It became normal to see him. Most times he was in the reflection of my screen. Other times I'd look up and see him leaning against the doorway of the dining room. He was never in color, only a black shadow that faded away as soon as I blinked. I didn't want to tell my sisters or my mom. I'd been getting horribly bullied at school nearly every day, and I felt if I were to say something, they'd make fun of me or simply call me crazy. I didn't want them to think I couldn't handle being alone. Either way, he was harmless at first, so he began to peer closer to me, or things in the house would fall over mysteriously. Cabinets would slam shut or the TV would turn off. Curtains would sway as if someone had run their hand through them. I'd just blare my headphones and stay put on the couch, staring at my laptop and praying that anybody, would come home. I'd see him and my face and palms would begin to sweat. I started to feel like maybe the curious spirit wasn't so innocent, like he was teasing me or pushing his limits to see just what he could do to instill fear in me. I'd never tried to talk to him or communicate, and quite honestly, I had no interest in trying. The first time I ever saw him in detail, I was in my bed. My little sister and I shared a room, and I had top bunk while she was on the bottom. I began to wake in the middle of the night, sweaty with my heart racing. Each night I'd look over the railing of my bed and see him standing in the dead center of my room, staring at my little sister as she slept. He could have only been 7 years old. He was skinny, and he had a red plaid button-up shirt tucked into black pants. He had spiked, bleached blonde hair and pale blue eyes. What stuck out about him was how white his skin was. He looked nearly albino, yet his lips were a shade of deep purple. I'd be too afraid to close my eyes or to even breathe. I'd wake in the nights to come, holding my eyes shut because I knew when I opened them he'd be there. Some nights, my sister wouldn't be in her bed because she was still young enough to want to be in mom's bed. He'd still just stand there, staring, not acknowledging me or letting it be known that he knew I was there. But I Northeast W he knew. As I kept this secret, our household began to fall apart. My sisters and I were constantly fighting. My depression was worsening and self-harm crept into my daily life. My mother began to drink heavier, and in fits of rage or sadness, she'd say things she didn't mean. She'd change into a person filled with anger when she'd once been so loving and sweet. My family began to feel like strangers to me. This led to even more time in the house on my own, as my sisters used their friends' houses as an escape. I had made no friends at my new school, so the only thing I could do to get away was to take walks to the gas station or to play with the dog. The next-door neighbors kept chained outside to a tree. Every time I'd see the little boy, I'd stop what I was doing and go sit with that dog. I'd stay put for a few hours until someone arrived home. Things hit their peak when it came time for me to bathe. I loved baths, but for some reason when I took baths at this house, I felt nothing but anxiety. My chest would tighten and burn when I'd lay back to wash my hair, and I'd feel like I couldn't bring myself back up. I'd scream for my mother because I often felt paralyzed with fear. Even just looking at the bathtub gave me an uneasy feeling and sent my heartbeat banging through my ears. Eventually, my anxiety of baths evolved into a full-fledged fear of water. Swimming pools, baths, lakes, it's all ruined for me. When I think back on it, it never felt as if the house had a happiness to it. Only darkness and that same energy that Windfall emitted so strongly. I was overcome with relief when Mom let us know that she and my stepdad had worked things out and we'd be moving back home. I couldn't have gotten out of that house fast enough. The only thing I didn't want to leave behind was the neighbor's dog. I had learned to shove away those memories. The little boy's face still popped up in my dreams from time to time, but I'd gotten over my anxiety of being home alone. Mom got better, and she eventually went back to being her old self again. Time passed and the depression got easier to manage. I'd nearly forgotten about him. We'd all been drinking around the bonfire one night, shooting the shit and talking about old memories. I was 20 now and felt that I could bring up the boy and handle whatever backlash I got from it. I asked my mom if she remembered the house and if she ever saw anything there. Oh, for sure. That place was haunted as hell, were her exact words. Yeah, my older sister chimed in. There was a little boy there, but he was not a little boy. I felt my heart drop to my stomach. He was evil. I'd always see him running around the dining room table or standing in Mom's doorway. That's why I was always at Olivia's, because I hated that house. She continued on. I told them my story, all of it. I told them why I'd suddenly become so afraid of water and why I hated being alone. It wasn't just him. There was an old woman there too. My mom said she'd stand in the dining room and tell me to get out of her house. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and she'd be standing at the end of my bed staring at me, pissed as hell. That's why I'd get up in the middle of the night and grab your sister out of bed so she could sleep next to me, because I was so scared. The worst time it happened, I woke up and saw that boy sitting on my dresser, swinging his legs. He hopped off the dresser, walked to the side of my bed, and jumped at me. He jumped straight at me and then disappeared. Mom continued on. When we left, I looked up the house, and turns out an old lady used to own that house and she died there. What about the little boy? I asked. Yeah, a little boy died in the house back in the 70s. He drowned to death. Since leaving the house, I've returned to Windfall a handful of times to visit family. The energy is still there, that heaviness and otherworldliness. As years go on, more and more ghost stories emerge from Windfall and the people who've lived there. Native American spirits and little children. There's something about that place that falls just perfectly on a wave of paranormal possibility. It radiates with things I don't know if we as a species will ever be able to wrap our heads around. Windfall, Indiana exists, and so does everything else in it.